this isn't a race. For so long, I was looking at it as some quick race to the top, and all I could do was focus on getting there as fast as possible. Like, I'm getting older every single minute. And of course, I want to reach my goal as fast as possible, don't get me wrong. But what I realized is the mindset shift that helped me find, calm in the process, find some peace with it, is that the race is never over. Even when you get to that goal that you want to get to, you're going to keep wanting to go. If you really in this for the long haul, there's no like stopping point. Like, oh, I made it, now I'm done. No, most people say that it's a marathon, not a sprint, but even a marathon has a finish line. But when you really, really got a love for what you do, the race is never really over. What's good, and welcome to Indie Leverage. This is our Let's Talk About It show, and we're back here with episode number 9, and we're looking for the best advice out there for music artists. And most of us realize that good music isn't enough. We need things like content creating, with an effective marketing strategy, having branding in place, all the business aspects, all of the different things that we need in order to succeed. But a lot of us, what we go through on our journeys as music artists, it's going to be directly correlated with our mindsets and our mental health. So just like how athletes say the game they play is just as much mental as it is physical, the same concept is going to apply to you as a music artist as well. So let's talk about it. We're going to pop it off today with a clip of Tyler, the Creator, giving some words of advice to all the creators out there uploading anything to any platform.
If you were uploading anything on anything, I don't want you to worry about what the numbers are or any of that stuff. No, truly. And any opinions from folks who don't make things or whose intent is numbers or sales or whatever the fuck. I want you to protect yourself by truly only filtering what is important there. I see a lot of you young kids thinking that you might be failing or not doing your best because you're comparing yourself to someone else's numbers or anything, and don't worry about any of that stuff, because that shit will block the next thing you make, and you never know who's watching or what that's gonna do to the landscape of music, movies, cooking, sculpture, whatever the fuck you do. So stay.
Preach, man. Go ahead and preach that. Those are some very true and motivational words from the man Tyler, the Creator, because that shows that even somebody at that level recognizes the effect that comparison can have on you as a creative person. You feel me? And I catch myself slipping to this day. I ain't even gonna lie, but it used to be like 10 times worse for me. And I feel like almost every artist does it. Like comparing yourself to anyone else is only going to dim your light. And I believe in doing competitive research, but that's not what I'm talking about. Like you said, comparing likes and streams or whatever other metric to another artist is only going to bring more negative energy into your life. You gotta compete with who you were yesterday by being even better today. And that's the only comparison that's ever actually gonna help. And it's the only one that's ever helped me as an artist. And I don't know, man, it's sad because you got people chasing likes and streams, so they go out there and they use like sketchy services. They give them more followers and Spotify streams, all that. But think about what you're losing in the process, bro. Like, if you watching videos like this where, you're actually trying to grow and learn every day, then I'm assuming you're kind of like me, where this comes from a place of passion and a place of, real love for music. So, think about when this all started. This wasn't for no likes or for fake streams and any other vanity metric. I'm not saying that they don't feel good. They feel good. They feel real good. It feels good to be recognized, especially when you're recognized for something that you truly love. But you're doing nothing but hurting yourself by comparing numbers or buying all these fake vanity metrics. And now, they got Meta verified. So now I'm seeing all of these artists switch the names on their accounts to their full government name. And this is on their artist profile, but they switching it to their full government name just so they can get that little blue check. And I refuse, bro. Like, I refuse. And I want that little blue check. I'm gonna be real with you right now. I'm not verified. I wanna be. I've been wanting to be verified, but that's not how I'm gonna get it, bro. You know, and it just kind of ties back into the fake stream things. Like, of course, you want millions of streams on every single song, but what does it mean if you just paying some company to, you know, flood your account with fake bot streams? What does that even mean for all of the goals and accomplishments that you set out to achieve? I don't know, but that's unfortunately how the culture is designed. It's designed for everybody to want to fit in and to be one of the elite. And if that's one of your goals in all of this, then, you know, great. But I'm not trying to get so caught up looking towards where I want to go that, you know, I lose sight in what I do to get there. And as easy as it sounds to keep your mental peace right, sometimes we can't help but get overwhelmed and burnt out. So if it hasn't happened to you, then honestly, bro, that's a blessing. But it's happened to me, honestly, a few times. And once you've been doing this long enough, you see that it really can happen to the best of us. So I'm going to pull up this next clip from the Awakened Creative, and he's talking about how artists spending less time on social media would actually help them create even better content.
Musicians, spending less time on social media will make you better at it if you do it right. Stop the endless, mindless scrolling, comparing yourself, and focusing on numbers, and instead create a strict system for managing it. Post X times per week, engage X minutes per day, research X minutes per week, then disappear. Use your newfound time for better ideas, creating, and taking care of yourself. You got this.
So he actually has some actionable advice on how we can combat feeling overwhelmed and fight the constant urge of comparing your numbers with other people's numbers. Basically, he's saying that when you set up a system, whether you're posting 3 times a day or 1 time a day, 1 time a week, whatever, you're setting up some sort of system that'll allow you to stay focused and to manage your time. And from personal experience, I'm gonna tell you that it definitely takes some trial and error, man, because even though you want to find a system that works for you, you also want to be like maximizing your reach as much as possible, if that makes sense. And I could easily just post, you know, 1 video a week on each platform and not ever feel overwhelmed or even get close to burning out. But I'd be shortchanging myself because I could produce a lot more quality content on a consistent basis without overwhelming myself. So, you know, once a week wouldn't really cut it for me. And that's why I said trial and error is going to be the key to you finding what works for you, at least for me, because I don't know, I want to push myself to go 100%. You know, I want to always make sure I'm giving it my all. And I know that saying says, you know, give it 110%. But in this situation right here, like I'm saying, go to 100, because if you're going to 110 with the amount of content that you're trying to produce, then you're going to end up burning out. So you doing 110 now is cool, but then a month, 2 months goes by, 3 months. I don't know how resilient you are. You could be doing this for a whole year, but imagine getting so burnt out that you just go ghost. Nobody hears from you. You just like, man, I need a break. So, you know, take a look at how much you're posting right now. Look back on the last month or so and look at how much you're posting on average. And then, you know, you can change that number based off of how you're currently feeling. And if you've been posting like 5 times a week, every week for the past month, but you feel exhausted or like, you know, you're starting to hate this, then you might want to dial it back a little bit. Plus, you know, it might help if you ease yourself into some sort of rhythm or a routine. You know, start off with a certain amount of posts per week, then slowly start to increase that over time. And if you end up increasing it and after some time you realize that, you know, you actually getting less consistent and you're giving it less attention just because you're constantly trying to play keep up, then, you know, you could dial it back to the amount of posts that you were able to manage before. And again, it's not about comfortably managing it. Like there's no way around this. This is gonna, if you want this for real, it's gonna take work. You ain't gonna be comfortable. Comfortable is where you have that average life. And if you're watching videos like this, I'm assuming, you know, you want something bigger than yourself and you don't want just an average life. So get uncomfortable, you know, get out of your comfort zone and see how far you can push yourself. So it's not necessarily about being able to comfortably manage your posting schedule. It's really about making sure that it's uncomfortable to manage it. Just enough uncomfortable to where you're just managing it. because it's kind of like, you know, using like working out as an example. You know, starting out, let's say you could do like 25 push-ups, right? At first, it might be hard to knock out those 25, but as you keep doing it day after day, eventually, you know, at first it was getting hard around 15, but then you hit 20 when it starts getting hard. And then next thing you know, you're doing all 25 and it's like, all right, I really could have done more. And then you keep scaling like that. You wouldn't go into a gym for the first time and be like, man, these people over here benching 400. I ain't never did this, but look at what they look like. I'm gonna just go straight for it. Man, you're gonna get yourself hurt. You feel me? Like, you gotta take things in stride. You gotta accept that there's a process to all of this. Because even though I said you wanna make it just enough uncomfortable, it's a fine line, because you also want to make sure that it's not too uncomfortable where you can't even manage it, you know, to the point where you start slipping and you fall off of your whole schedule entirely. So I'm still, you know, trying to dial in a perfect routine for myself where I can be as productive as possible. And I've been working on this for a minute. You know, slip ups gonna happen. You know, you bite off a little bit more than you chew. It happens sometimes. But the important thing is you analyze what you're doing and you course correct to make sure that you get back on track. If you're a true musicpreneur, then I'd like to offer you a lifeline and invite you to a one-on-one session with me that we'll treat like your own personal mastermind, where I'll answer any questions and we can strategize actionable steps tailored to your unique situation. I'm only opening up a limited number of slots each month, so if you'd like to apply, you can visit www.indieleverage.com/live call. And don't worry, I put the link down in the description for you. So for now, let's get back to the video. Even if you're not a full-time artist yet, you know, when you do become a full-time artist, you want to have the right mindset to keep going and keep chasing the next thing. And that realization was one of the most, you know, relieving things for me. Realizing that this isn't a race. You know, for so long, I was looking at it as some quick race to the top, and all I could do was focus on getting there as fast as possible. Like, I'm getting older every single minute. And of course, I want to reach my goal as fast as possible, don't get me wrong, but what I realized is the mindset shift that helped me find, you know, calm in the process, find some peace with it, is that the race is never over. Even when you get to that goal that you want to get to, you're going to keep wanting to go. If you really in this for the long haul, there's no like stopping point, like, oh, I made it, now I'm done. No, most people say that it's a marathon, not a sprint, but even a marathon has a finish line. But when you really, really got a love for what you do, the race is never really over. So it's okay if you need to take a few seconds to catch your breath every now and again, because if you're like me, you know that this journey is gonna last a lifetime. And like I said, if you were some bodybuilder, you know, you would never be so reckless to try and compare yourself to some vet that's been doing this forever and then say, hey, because you bench 400 pounds, I'm gonna try to do that too. If you think that's crazy, why do you not look at this as anything else? Don't go straight saying, oh, well, Gary Vee says to post on every platform 7 times a day. Man, whatever number, don't quote me on the 7, but whatever number it is that you're like, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, man, pace yourself. Push yourself, but pace yourself. So starting out, an artist just has to get the posting schedule that works for them right now. So wherever you're at right now, get a posting schedule that works for you. And then slowly over time, start to increase that until you have a perfectly optimized posting schedule. But all of this requires focus. You know, it requires vision, not just for the right now, but for your long-term goals. And that actually leads me to the next clip we got from Tilt. And he drops a little gem on how most artists fumble.
Most artists are only looking for what they're getting right then.
Okay.
You know what I mean? They feel
They're not
like
looking down the road. They're looking right now.
Nah,
right here, what I can see.
Because, you know, what we always have is ideas, and what the industry has is access.
Okay.
So we usually exchange our ideas for their access. And that's how we usually get ourselves.
That's why we end up on the short end of the stick.
Until we have created the leverage for ourselves,
Right.
where we can kind of, you know, tip the scales in the other direction.
Right.
Yeah.
Man, first of all, shout out to Tip, man. I know it wasn't intentional or nothing, but this man was talking about gaining leverage and balancing the scales. which if you don't know, that's what this whole channel is for. So he might have just said the realest line of the episode, man. He said that we usually will exchange our ideas for access, and I never actually thought about it like that. But essentially, that is what you're doing. Like, that's what we're doing. Especially, you know, you have some artists signing these 360 deals where, you know, the labels not only eat off their music, but they eating off of anything that's tied to their brand. But that's really a worst case scenario. And I know this is indie leverage, but that don't mean that it never makes sense for some people to sign a deal. You feel me? Like he said, once an artist gains enough leverage, all the deal is negotiation. The more leverage you have to negotiate with, the more fair that your deal is going to be. So I can see how some artists just bet on themselves and they sign these deals that aren't necessarily good right now. And then they use the access that they've gained and they flip it into more leverage. So when the contract is up, it's time to renegotiate. The artist then has something to stand on when asking for a better deal. And people want to sign to a label for a reason. There's no questioning, how effective that they can be. But there's just so many tools and resources out there for us to build our leverage all on our own. And if the time comes for a record deal, you're not going to come into it from a desperate place if you've built up your own leverage. So at the end of the day, you gotta figure it out on your own. In fact, a label probably won't even be interested in you unless you had, some sort of success on your own. So I think a lot of times it's not just the access that the artists are wanting. I think it's also, them wanting some sort of shortcut or a handout to get to where they want to go. So then they find themselves in these situations where they're giving up ownership to any other ideas or anything that's associated with their IP just because they're too lazy right now to put in the work for later. And actually, it might not even be too lazy. They might just be too impatient to put in the work long enough. You know what I'm saying? But nobody wants to be that starving artist, and nobody wants to have to go through all the struggle of trying to make it year after year. It's a lot more appealing to look at the top of the mountain and pray for some imaginary handout, but labels aren't really developing artists like they used to. You feel me? Like, a big part of our development process as an independent artist, in my opinion, is through the long process of putting in work, figuring out your sound and the way that you communicate with your people. So, how do you want to market to people? How do you want to display yourself? What is your brand identity? So many things that you only get through the years of working through it. And during that time period, you might go through a lot of hard times. There ain't no might about it, bro. You're gonna go through a lot of hard times. And I feel like a lot of times the mind state for most artists is they try to hide what they're going through and they only highlight the good parts. But there's so much power in being vulnerable and speaking on what's going, wrong in your life. But in this next video we got from CG the GOAT, he talks about some of the benefits of an artist being vulnerable in their music.
All right, so hear me out. If you are an artist, if you're a content creator, and you going through something, no matter how hard it is, I want you to try and be grateful, and here's why. I like fun music. I like music where the beat is doing the heavy lifting. They're not really talking about too much as the next person. But the best artists, the top artists, have subject matter. They've been through some shit. They're relatable. A lot of your favorite artists stop being your favorite artists when they blow up because they shit get redundant. They shit get boring. They stop being relatable. They don't got shit to say no more. So if you're going through some terrible shit, let your art reflect that. Take that energy, harness it, and put it into your music. You see what I'm saying?
I mean, he's not lying. I could think of a few examples where I fell off on an artist because, they wasn't making the same type of music that they were when they started. But I do feel like one thing that I've been noticing, especially like over the past couple years, is that for artists coming up that are talking about pain and struggle, they're not really talking about nothing real. They only doing that surface level cliche stuff just because they feel like that's what people want to hear right now and that's what's in. But the thing that people really want is to feel a connection, so you can't have the excuse and be like, oh, I have some pain music in my catalog, you feel me? Because it's so much more than just the subject matter of a song. How does what you talking about in your music directly connect with you and whatever you going through or whatever you've gone through, right? So I said that a lot of artists, they'll try and hide the struggles that they face. But even if you're an artist that has learned to be vulnerable through your music, this isn't the time to be doing things halfway. And the more authentic you can be in your music, the more that people will be able to gravitate towards you and become a part of your community. You know, when you're vulnerable in your music, you allow your audience to connect with you on such a deeper level, and your listeners will actually be able to relate to your emotions and the experiences that you've gone through. And what's even crazier, when they hear, you know, you opening up about what you've gone through, they themselves end up feeling more understood and heard. And now all of a sudden they don't feel like they're alone or like they're the only ones out there that understands what they're going through. And this connection can lead to such a strong and loyal fan base. It might be time to consider using DistroKid. Not only can you release unlimited songs to all major streaming platforms like Spotify and Apple for only $40 a year, they let us keep 100% of our royalties, and they even have direct deposit to make it easier than ever to get paid what we deserve. By using my referral link, you'll be able to sign up and receive 7% off on your first year. In full transparency, I do receive commission off of this, but this isn't like an official sponsorship type of deal. This is actually my own personal referral link that DistroKid gives to the artists that use their services. So I put the link that saves you money down in the description for you, but let's go ahead and get back to the video. And everybody, for the most part, is on social media trying to portray an image that is really just an idealized version of what their lives are, like, you know, what they want their lives to be, rather. So I think that true authenticity is such a rare and valuable trait. And by you being vulnerable in your music, you show that you're not afraid to be honest and open about any of your weaknesses. And I feel like so many artists, you know, they try so hard to fit in, but why would you want to fit in amongst a crowd of so many other artists doing the same thing as you? Like, how does that make sense? And there's enough success out there for all of us. You know, I truly believe that. So I'm not meaning this in like some toxic competitive mindset type of way where people think if another artist wins, then they can't win. But at the end of the day, we're all fighting for attention, right? So instead of trying to flash, you know, chains or cars or portray yourself in any other way than who you really are, then you're just blending in with everybody else trying to fake it till they make it too. But being truly authentic can help you stand out, and it attracts the crowd that genuinely fits you. You feel me? Like, we all know how music has this amazing power to affect our emotions when we're listening to it. So when you're being vulnerable in your music, you're actually able to tap into that same emotional power and create a true impact on your audience. You can use your music to help people feel like they're truly understood, like they've finally been seen and they've been heard. You feel me? Like, you can even provide a level of comfort and healing for these people. But it's not even just about your listeners. Like, when it comes to being vulnerable like that, you start to learn about and explore your own emotions and experiences in one of the most raw and honest ways possible, through music. And I literally treat it like my own personal therapy sessions when I'm in the stool, bro. But if you're not already speaking on the struggles that you face in your music, it might be time to switch it up, you feel me, and show people a little bit more of the real you, because that's what they truly gonna connect with. That's what they want to see. But we'll go ahead and wrap it up. It's time for our last clip of the day. I wanted to end it with some words of advice from none other than Prince himself. He breaks down how an artist can gauge whether or not their song is a success.
If you ask any artist, the music is a success upon creation. When you give it to somebody like a Rolling Stone or a Vibe and they start critiquing it, then your perception changes. But that's looking through somebody else's eyes. So again, we gauge success based upon what we feel in our hearts. You know, we've shut our minds off now. Minds should be used for what they were made for, filing cabinets. We think with our hearts.
Definitely some wise words, man. And all of us just want our music to be heard and appreciated. I feel like most of us just want to connect with our audience and make a real difference, you know, using our music. And it's natural for us to want feedback from other people. And depending on the situation, it can actually be helpful and sometimes even necessary to get feedback. But the thing is, it all comes back to you and your art. I mean, it's supposed to be your vision and your passion that people are drawn to, right? And when you start to listen too closely to the opinions of other people, you end up risking the inner creative that was making the music authentic in the first place. You know, you're not just creating music based off of whatever the current trend is or what people are saying. And please don't think I'm saying that you should be ignoring all the feedback that you get. I'm gonna repeat it for the people in the back, because I know some people gonna be acting reckless in the comments. So I think that genuine constructive criticism from people that you trust can be something incredibly valuable to have. In fact, you know, I encourage you to get input from the people around you. It's gonna help you grow as an artist, and you'll be able to fine tune your sound and even your brand, right? But it's always important to consider the source, because not all feedback is created equal. And by that, I mean that not everyone is going to understand or appreciate who you are and the music that you make. That's fine. That's okay. It's actually a good thing for people to know right away if what you do fits them. So many artists want to make music that everybody likes, and that's just not realistic. It's not your job to please everybody. All you have to do is create music that is true to you, true to yourself, something that speaks to who you are and also speaks to other people that share your same perspective. You feel me? So next time that somebody tries to come in and criticize your music, before you start feeling some type of way, you know, take a breath, take a step back, and ask yourself if the feedback you received is helping you grow as an artist, or is it something that stifles your creativity? And I know it's hard, but try and detach yourself as the artist and just look at the feedback objectively. You know, you want to be open to other opinions, but you also want to trust in your own voice and your own vision, because that's likely what got you to where you are in the first place. You feel me? Only people who create something themselves can understand how deeply personal that process is. And it requires you to be vulnerable and self-aware and courageous enough to release your creation to the world. But at the end of the day, the most important voice or opinion in your music will always be your own. You feel me? So trust your gut, trust your intuition, because like I said, that's what got you here. But man, that's gonna be it for today's episode of Let's Talk About It. I know we got a little touchy-feely on this one, but I know that I want to do this for the rest of my life. And any artist that feels the same way should do everything that they can to make sure that they're in the right headspace. It's easy for us to get caught up in the daily grind and the constant hustle of trying to make it in the industry. But I feel like that's why it's so important that we prioritize our mental peace. Because when you're mentally at peace, you're really able to handle the stress and the pressure in a healthy way, instead of making decisions desperately out of fear or anxiety. You feel me? And you're able to make decisions from a place of clarity and clear intention. It's the only way that you'll actually be able to sustain a career over a long period of time, instead of, you know, being one of these artists that burn out or they end up giving up later down the road. So take your breaks when you need them. Surround yourself with people that love and they support you, but most importantly, make sure that you love and support yourself. You know, it's important to practice self-care. But I do hope that you got some insight and takeaways from this video. If you're not already, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Get notified for more videos like this. I'll be back with y'all same time next week. It's going to be a special episode about how artists can start generating some money. So until next time, drop a comment. Let us know which one was your favorite piece of advice. And y'all keep pushing, cause we starting to gain some leverage.
I can't settle for average. I made it a habit of doing what they couldn't get done.
Wait, you still here? You must not know a video to watch next or something, huh? Alright, man. I got you, bro, but you gonna have to get up out of my studio, cause what the
got me showing up. You can keep your keeper behind the gate if they won't let me in. Yeah. We balancing the scales now, and we got them scared. Yeah. We been gaining leverage. What I need a handout for. Watch me really put myself on. In the leverage drop gems, you got all the free game. Yeah, yeah, we got plenty more sauce. Go ahead.